العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الغرر الميامين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين وحجته على الخلائق أجمعين، سيدنا وإمام زماننا وصاحب نعمتنا وولي أمرنا مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة بن الحسن العسكري فداه أرواح العالمين. We said that the butterfly effect that is a theory, though it is discussed within the field of mathematics, is very much practical and very tangible in our lives as human beings. And one way to explain the tradition that we mentioned last night, for those of you who were there, that a man is told on the Day of Judgment that you are responsible for blood, innocent blood that was shed. He says, I never laid a hand on anybody, I never took the life of any single human being. But he's told that you said a word, you uttered a sentence which led to this blood being shed. Therefore, you're responsible for that. And one way to explain how that is possible is to look at how interconnected our lives are in this world. There is something, an experiment that was conducted a while ago called the 6-step separation theory. And the idea is that on average, every human being knows roughly 42 people. It's reasonable to say that you know roughly about 42 people within the family, at the workplace, at school, and so on. So 42 acquaintances seems like a reasonable number. Now, if every one of those 42 individuals also knew 42 people, the results of this research led scientists to believe that it takes only 6 steps, in other words, 6 individuals, to separate you from every other person on this planet. So you know everybody else through 6 other individuals. So you know someone, they know someone else, and they know someone else, and so on and so forth. And all it takes is 6 individuals. So if you think about it that way, you begin to realize that you can have a very profound effect on people living across the world simply by using these connections and these acquaintances and these individuals that know you and within 6 steps can connect you to the people living across the world. Now, as certain character traits, the good as well as the bad, we know that sometimes, as we explained last night, one sin could lead to another, but this also applies on the positive and good character traits that, as human beings, some of us might possess. For example, one tradition states that إذا رأيتم خصلة حميدة في أحد فابحثوا عن أخواتها. If you ever see something good, some good virtue or character trait that a person might display, always try to seek other good qualities that the person has. Because good qualities come in, packs. So if there's one good quality, it means that the person also enjoys another one, and another one, and another one. So just as one sin could lead to another, a good feature in a human being, a good quality, a good character trait, also drags along with it other good qualities and other good character traits. One tradition states, إذا قرنت الخصال قرن الجود أو قرن الكرم بالشجاعة. If good human qualities were to be placed together and grouped together, then you would usually find bravery going side by side with generosity. So someone who's extremely brave is also usually extremely generous. Because when a person's really brave, and say for example they possess a great degree of chivalry in the battlefield, now they're offering all they have in that battle. They're willing to sacrifice their lives for a cause. And so if they're offering their lives as a way to pay for whatever cause that they're trying to seek, then it should be a lot easier for them to give other things and other material possessions away as well. So they also become very generous. If you look at the lives of the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen, may the peace and blessings of the Almighty Allah be upon him, you'll notice that obviously there's no question about the degree of bravery that the Imam enjoyed. It was almost superhuman. And he never feared anyone, no matter at what age or stage or juncture in his life he happened to be, no matter who it was that was standing before him. In fact, historians say that there were cases where the Imam confronts certain individuals in the battlefield or even off. And for example, they tell a specific story about a pirate who attacked the Imam, and he was traveling across the desert from one point to another. And the pirate, as soon as he approached the Imam, he introduced himself. He said, "I am Ali ibn Abi Talib." They say the man simply stood still. So the Imam repeated his introduction. He said, "I am Ali ibn Abi Talib." And he just stood still. And he kept repeating that a few times until they realized that the man had suffered a fatal heart attack upon hearing the Imam's name, and he just died while sitting on the horse. So the Imam's bravery is, goes without saying really. But if you notice, that same degree of bravery also had generosity, as we explained in the tradition, going along with it, to the point where the Imam is in the middle of the battlefield. He's fighting people who are out there to kill him in order to shed his blood and the blood of the Prophet and everybody else who was there. And yes, in the midst of all this chaos, a man says to him, "A'tini sayfaka ya Ali." Give me your sword. Now, if you want to put this into perspective, it's like you're out there, you're being mugged in the street, and you have a gun, your enemy doesn't, or the guy who's out there trying to mug you or kill you or whatever. Suddenly the guy says, "Give me your gun." Now what do you think he would want to do with your gun? He's out there trying to kill you. They say the Imam threw the sword to this man. He gave him the sword. He just handed it over to him. The man was shocked. I mean, obviously, he was just trying in a last desperate attempt to save his life, because the Imam approached him, and the Imam was about to make his call, his very famous call, "Khudha wa ana Ali." Take it and know that I am Ali ibn Abi Talib. In other words, the Imam would utilize a shock and awe sort of strategy. He would tell him who he is. That way, maybe the guy is going to suffer a fatal heart attack, and just make it easier for the Imam to sever his head. And as the Imam was about to do that, the man says, "Give me your sword." And the Imam simply handed his sword over, his own weapon, over to that man. The man took the sword with shock and surprise. He said, "Why did you give me the sword?" He said, "You asked for it." And it was at that point that the man withdrew from the battle, and he repented, and he joined Imam Ali's camp. The point I'm trying to make is that you have certain individuals with really good qualities. When you find people of that sort, look for other good qualities in them. Because good qualities, just like sins, just like bad character traits, they come in packs. And we explained how one sin could lead to the other, and so on and so forth. The commander of the faithful, speaking of whom, he's the kind of man who also, when you have a brave person, he also happens to be generous. He also happens to be just. If the person is displaying any degree of injustice, you know that he's not brave. Because the only reason you would want to oppress someone is because you're afraid of them, and you're not brave enough, you're not man enough to stand and confront them. So you stab them in the back. An oppressor is the most coward of all people. So you gotta have justice as well. To the point where the Imam is said to have been in the battle of Jamal. And of course, as you all know, the whole purpose of a war is to achieve victory at all costs. It's to destroy the enemy camp, bring complete, utter, sheer destruction to their troops, and bring them down on their knees, get them to submit to you or die. That's the whole point, right? Not in Imam Ali's dictionary. The Imam's out there, he's fighting them. But the only reason he's fighting them is because they started a war that would have led to the destruction of the Islamic Empire and to the death of hundreds of thousands of people. The Imam, his war wasn't a preemptive one. The Imam wasn't trying to defeat the enemy and bring complete destruction to their camp.